On the distant world of Valdoria Prime, inside a massive museum, sat the greatest mystery in the galaxy. 50 years ago, explorers had found something incredible. On a dead moon, buried deep under miles of ice, they discovered an ancient archive. It was not a building. It was a cave, natural and vast, filled with something no one expected. Stone tablets. Thousands of them. 10,000, to be exact. Each one was perfectly preserved. The ice had kept them safe for a very long time. They were covered in strange symbols, carved deep into the stone. Symbols that no one had ever seen before. For 50 years, the greatest minds of every alien race had tried to read them. Linguists came from the Krell homeworld. They stared at the symbols for years and left with nothing. Historians arrived from the Zen science stations. They built complex theories and then watched them fall apart. Artificial intelligences, the smartest machines in the galaxy, analyzed every line, every curve, every possible meaning. Nothing worked. The symbols matched no known language. They were not like anything in any database. The tablets just sat there, silent, row after row after row. They seemed to mock everyone who tried to understand them. Different races had different ideas about what the tablets meant. Some said they were religious texts, prayers to forgotten gods. Some said they were records of a lost civilization, a species that died so long ago that even their name was gone. Some said they were not language at all. Just art. Pretty pictures that meant nothing. But everyone agreed on one thing. Whatever culture made these tablets was long dead. Their secrets died with them. The tablets would never be read. Then the humans came. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only been part of it for 50 years. The same 50 years the tablets had been sitting in the museum. They were curious creatures, always asking questions, always wanting to learn. But no one took them seriously. They were young. Primitive. They had only left their own star a short time ago. Their technology was basic. Their ships were slow. They were like children in a room full of adults. A small team of human scholars visited Valdoria Prime to see the famous tablets. They had heard stories. They wanted to look for themselves. No one expected anything to come of it. Among them was a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen. She was a linguist. She studied dead languages on Earth. Languages no one had spoken for thousands of years. She was good at her job, but she was still just a human. Young. Unimportant. The museum curator was an elderly being named Vorath. He belonged to the Vor race, a species known for their patience and wisdom. He had been caring for the tablets for 40 years. He had seen thousands of scholars come and go. He had watched them all fail. He met the humans at the entrance. He was polite but not hopeful. "Look all you want," he told them. His voice was kind but tired. "But do not expect miracles. 1,000,000 minds have tried and failed. The greatest geniuses of 100 species. They all left with nothing." He looked at the humans with gentle pity. "Your young species will not succeed where we have failed for 50 years. The humans thanked him and walked into the tablet hall. It was huge. Row after row of stone tablets, standing like silent soldiers. The lights were dim, to protect the ancient stone. The air was cold and still. It felt like walking through a cemetery. Dr. Sarah Chen walked ahead of the others. She was drawn to the first tablet. Something about it pulled her forward. She stopped in front of it. The symbols were strange. Curves and lines and dots arranged in patterns. She had never seen anything like them. Her mind should have been blank. Confused. Like everyone else who looked at them. But she was not confused. Her face went pale. Her hands started to shake. Her eyes moved across the symbols, left to right, top to bottom. Reading. Understanding. The other humans noticed. They gathered behind her, worried. "Sarah, are you okay?" She did not answer. She just kept staring at the tablet. Her lips moved slightly, forming silent words. Finally, she turned. Her eyes were wide. Her face was white. "Vorath," she called. Her voice was shaking. The old curator hurried over. He saw her face and felt a cold fear in his ancient heart. "Yes? What is wrong?" Dr. Chen pointed at the tablet. Then she looked at him with eyes that seemed to see something far away. Something very old. "When did you say you found these?" she asked. Vorath blinked. 50 years ago. Everyone knows this." Dr. Chen shook her head slowly. "No," she said quietly. "When did you really find them? How long have they been here?" Vorath was confused. "I told you. 50 years. Why does it matter?" Dr. Chen looked back at the tablet. At the symbols. At the words she should not be able to read. "Because," she whispered. I can read them. The room went silent. The other humans stared. Voritha's old face showed disbelief. That is impossible, he said. Dr. Chen pointed to a symbol on the stone. This symbol here, she said. It means warning. She pointed to another. This one means death. Another. This one means do not. She turned to Vorith. Her face was pale but certain. I can read all of them. Every single tablet. I do not know how. But I can. Vorith stared at her. For the first time in 50 years, he had no words. Vorith stared at the human woman. His ancient mind raced with confusion. 50 years ago, he said slowly. Why do you ask? Dr. Sarah Chen did not answer. She turned away from him and walked to the next tablet. Then the next. She moved quickly, her eyes scanning each stone surface. The symbols seemed to speak to her. She read them like a person reading words on a page. The other humans followed, confused. Sarah? What is happening? She did not stop. Tablet after tablet. Her pace got faster. Her eyes moved quicker. She was not just looking anymore. She was reading, devouring, understanding. In the museum, other aliens began to notice. A group of Krell warriors, visiting from their homeworld, stopped their tour. They watched the strange human move through the tablets. What is she doing? One asked. A Zen scientist adjusted her large eyes. She seems to be studying them. But that is impossible. No one can read them. Word spread through the museum. Visitors gathered. Curators came running. Soon a crowd of aliens surrounded the tablet hall, watching the human woman move from stone to stone. Whispers filled the air. What does she see? Is she pretending? No one can read them. It is not possible. Dr. Chen ignored them all. She reached tablet 500 and stopped. Her finger rose and pointed at a symbol. This symbol here, she said. Her voice was shaking but clear. It means warning. She moved her finger to another symbol. This one means death. Another. This one means do not. The room went silent. Completely silent. No whispers. No movement. Nothing. Vorith stepped forward. His old face showed something no one had ever seen on him before. Shock. That is impossible, he whispered. His voice was barely audible. How can you read this? This language is older than your species. Older than your planet. You have never seen these symbols before. No one has. Dr. Chen looked at him. Her eyes were wide, almost scared. I have seen them before, she said. Vorith shook his head. No. That cannot be. I have, she insisted. Not in any book. Not in any database. Not on any screen. She touched the tablet gently. Her fingers traced the ancient carvings. I have seen them in dreams. Strange dreams I have had since I was a child. Dreams of stars and darkness and running. She looked at Vorith. I have seen them in old stories. Stories my grandmother told me. Stories her grandmother told her. Stories that go back thousands of years. We thought they were just myths. Just tales to scare children. Her voice got quieter. I have seen them in cave paintings. Back on Earth. Places where ancient humans drew pictures on walls. Pictures that no one could ever explain. Pictures that looked like writing, but not like any writing we knew. Voritha's ancient face showed something new. Fear. Deep, ancient fear. What are you saying, human? Dr. Sarah Chen took a deep breath. The whole room waited. Hundreds of alien eyes watched her. I am saying, she said slowly, that these tablets were not made by an alien race. She looked at the stones around her. At the thousands of tablets. At the symbols she should not understand. They were made by us. By humans. The room exploded. Aliens shouted. Krell warriors roared in disbelief. Zen scientists screamed questions. Drath elders, watching from screens far away, went pale. Some laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others demanded proof. Others just stared in shock. Impossible. Humans are young. Primitive. She is lying. Proof. Give us proof. But Dr. Chen was not listening to any of them. She had turned back to the tablets. Her eyes moved to the next one. Tablet 501. She read it. Her face changed. The color drained away. Tablet 502. Her hands started to shake again. Tablet 503. Her breath caught in her throat. Tablet 504. Tears formed in her eyes. Tablet 505. She made a small sound. A sound of fear. The shouting continued around her. The chaos grew. No one noticed her face. No one saw the terror building in her eyes. She kept reading. Faster now. Desperate. Tablet after tablet. The story unfolded before her. The story her ancestors had carved into stone 1,000,000 years ago. The story they had left behind for someone to find. For her to find. She reached tablet 600. Then 700. The words got darker. The warnings got stronger. The fear in the ancient carvings grew with every stone. Finally, she stopped. Her body was shaking. Her face was white as snow. Vorith pushed through the crowd. He saw her face and felt his ancient heart freeze. What? He demanded. What do you see? Dr. Chen looked at him. Her eyes were full of a terror so deep it seemed to come from somewhere far away. Somewhere ancient. Somewhere in her blood. The warnings, she whispered. They are not about the past. Vorith stared. What do you mean? Dr. Chen pointed at the tablet before her. At the symbols that told a story 1,000,000 years old. They are about the future, she said. They knew we would come back here someday. They knew we would read these words. And they left us a message. Her voice broke. They are still out there. The things they ran from. They are still hunting. And they have found us again. The room fell silent once more. But this silence was different. This silence was full of fear. The chaos continued around her. Aliens shouted. Some laughed. Some demanded proof. Some just stared in disbelief. Dr. Sarah Chen heard none of it. She moved to the next tablet. Then the next. Her eyes flew across the ancient symbols. Reading. Understanding. Her face grew paler with each one. Vorith saw her face. He raised his hand and shouted for silence. Quiet. All of you. Let her read. The room slowly fell silent. Every eye watched the human woman as she moved from stone to stone. Her lips moved, forming silent words. Her hands trembled. Then she began to speak aloud. Tablet 1, she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. It says, we came from the stars. She moved to Tablet 2. Tablet 2, we found a green world. Tablet 3. Tablet 3, we made it our home. She kept moving, reading, translating. The story unfolded for all to hear. The ancient humans had not started on Earth. They came from somewhere else. Somewhere far away. They traveled between stars in ships that could cross the void. They were powerful. Advanced. They lived for thousands of years. They found Earth and loved it. A green world. Full of life. They decided to stay. For a long time, they were happy. They built great cities. They created wonderful things. They watched the stars and felt safe. Then everything changed. Dr. Chen reached Tablet 4000. Her voice changed. Became darker. Tablet 4000, we found them in the dark. She moved on. Tablet 4001, they followed us home. Tablet 4002, they cannot be stopped. Tablet 4003, they eat worlds. In the crowd, aliens gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others grabbed each other's arms. The Krell warriors, who had laughed before, stood frozen. Their red faces showed real fear. Dr. Chen kept reading. Faster now. The story got worse. The things in the dark were hunters. Ancient beings that traveled between stars, eating entire worlds. They consumed everything. All life. All civilization. They left nothing but dead rock behind. The ancient humans fought them. For centuries, they fought. But they could not win. Tablet 7000 came. Dr. Chen's voice cracked as she read. Tablet 7000, we cannot win. Tablet 7001, we must hide. Tablet 7002, we will make ourselves small. Tablet 7003, we will forget the stars. Tablet 7004, we will become primitive so they do not see us. She stopped. Tears ran down her face. But she kept going. They chose to forget, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. They chose to become less. They buried their cities under the ground. They buried their ships in deserts and under oceans. They buried their knowledge in caves and mountains. She looked at the crowd of aliens, at their scared faces. They spread out across the planet. They stopped using technology. They lived in small groups. They became hunters and gatherers. They forgot how to read. They forgot the stars. They forgot everything. She paused. So the hunters would not find them. The room was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Dr. Chen turned to the last tablet. Number 10,000. It stood alone at the end of the long hall. She walked toward it slowly. Her legs felt weak. Her heart pounded in her chest. She reached it, looked at the symbols, read them once, then again. Her hands shook badly now. Her whole body trembled. Vorith stepped forward. His old face was full of fear. "What does it say?" he asked. His voice was small. "Scared." Dr. Chen looked up at him, at the crowd behind him, at all the aliens watching. Her eyes were full of a terror so deep it seemed to come from somewhere ancient, somewhere in her blood, somewhere in the memory of her species. "It says," she whispered, "they are still out there." She took a shaking breath. "They are still hunting." Another breath. "And they have not forgotten us." For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The words hung in the air like a curse. Then, in the silence, a single alarm began to beep. It came from a small device on Vorith's belt. A communication device. He looked down at it. His ancient face went white. "What is it?" someone asked. Vorith looked up. His eyes met Dr. Chen's. "Deep space scanners," he said. His voice was hollow. "Something is coming. Something big. From the dark between galaxies." The room erupted in panic. Screaming. Crying. Aliens running. But Dr. Chen just stood there, looking at the last tablet, at the final warning from her ancestors. They had run. They had hidden. They had forgotten everything. And still the hunters found them. She looked up at the ceiling, as if she could see through it, through the sky, through space itself. They were coming. And this time, there was nowhere left to run. For one long moment, the room was completely silent. Then chaos erupted again. But this time it was different. This time there was no laughter. No disbelief. This time the fear was real. Aliens screamed. Some ran for the doors. Others fell to their knees. Krell warriors, proud and strong, looked at each other with terror in their eyes. Zen scientists cried. Drath elders, watching from screens far away, went pale and silent. If the ancient humans had fled from something, and that something was still out there, still hunting after 1,000,000 years, what chance did anyone have? Dr. Sarah Chen stood still in the middle of the chaos. She looked at the last tablet one more time. Then she pulled out her communication device and called Earth. The line connected. A voice answered. "Chen, what is happening? We are seeing panic across the galaxy." She took a deep breath. "I need you to connect me to every historian, every archaeologist, every government official you can find. Now." For the next hour, she talked. She told them everything. The tablets. The warnings. The hunters. On Earth, people started working. Historians pulled out old records. Archaeologists opened files that had been sitting untouched for decades. Slowly, pieces started to fit together. Ancient sites that made no sense. Places where primitive humans had built things they should not have been able to build. Structures aligned with stars. Drawings of things that looked like ships. Mass extinctions that had no explanation. Times when life on Earth almost ended. Not from asteroids or climate change. Something else. Something that killed and moved on. Myths and legends from every culture. Every religion. Stories about monsters from the sky. Gods who came and brought destruction. Demons who ate the world. Stories that were the same, even though the cultures had never met. It was all real. All of it. The ancient humans had not made up those stories. They had remembered. Passed down the fear through generations. Through thousands of generations. The memories faded into myth, but they never disappeared. Dr. Chen called again. "Turn the deep space scanners toward the dark between galaxies. The places we never look. Look now." On Earth, scientists aimed the biggest scanners at the void. At first, nothing. Empty space. Darkness. Then, on the very edge of detection, they found something. A signal. Very faint. Very old. It was not a message. It was more like a trail. A path of something moving through space. And it was getting closer. Not fast. But slowly. Steadily. Like a hunter following tracks. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Every alien race heard. The Krell, who had mocked humans. The Zen, who had pitted them. The Drath, who had ignored them. They all heard. And they all panicked. Ships were prepared for escape. Colonies went into lockdown. Some species talked about fleeing to another galaxy. But where would they go? If the hunters could cross the void between galaxies, nowhere was safe. A new meeting was called on Axiom Prime. The same hall where humans had been laughed at. This time, no one laughed. Representatives from dozens of species filled the room. But now they were quiet. Scared. They looked at the humans differently now. Not as children. Not as primitives. As something else. You faced them before, the Krell leader said. His voice was humble. Broken. You survived. What do we do? Tell us. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before them. She looked small and ordinary. But no one saw her that way anymore. Our ancestors made a choice, she said. Her voice was calm. Strong. 1,000,000 years ago, they chose to hide. They chose to forget. They chose to become small and quiet, so the hunters would pass over them. She looked around the room. It worked. The hunters moved on. They did not see us. They did not destroy us. We survived. She paused. But we are not our ancestors. Her eyes were hard. We did not forget. Not completely. The stories stayed. The dreams stayed. The fear stayed. Passed down through 10,000 generations. We did not know what it meant, but we never let it go. She reached into her pocket and held up a small device. It looked old, made of stone and metal. And something else stayed too. The aliens leaned forward, watching. When our ancestors buried their cities, they did not destroy everything. They left caches, hidden places, deep underground, under oceans, inside mountains, places where no one would find them. She held the device higher. They left weapons. They left ships. They left knowledge, waiting for the day the hunters returned. On Earth, far away, things began to happen. In the Sahara Desert, sand started to move. Something beneath it was waking up. Giant doors, buried for 1,000,000 years, began to slide open. At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, lights flickered in the darkness. Ancient machines stirred. Power came back to systems that had been sleeping since before humans walked on two legs. Inside mountains in South America, in Asia, in Antarctica, doors opened. Corridors lit up. Things that had been waiting for a very long time started to wake. On the surface, humans felt it. A vibration in the ground. A hum in the air. Something deep in their blood responded. Something ancient. Something that remembered. Dr. Chen looked at the alien representatives. At their scared faces. The humans you see now, farming, working, living small lives, that is not what we are. That is just what we became to survive. She smiled. It was not a nice smile. The hunters are coming. They think they will find the same weak prey they chased 1,000,000 years ago. She looked toward the door, toward the sky, toward the darkness beyond. They are wrong. The hunters were coming. But something else was waking up too. Something that had been waiting a very long time for this moment. The humans were not hiding anymore. They came from the dark between galaxies. The hunters arrived in the system slowly, confidently. They were massive beings of pure energy, glowing with ancient power. Their ships were not made of metal or stone. They were alive, pulsating, hungry. They had been hunting for billions of years, traveling from galaxy to galaxy, eating worlds, consuming civilizations. Nothing had ever stopped them. They remembered humans. The one prey that escaped. The one species that ran and hid so long ago. They had searched for them across the void, and now they had found them again. The hunter fleet approached Earth. They expected to find the same weak, primitive creatures that had fled from them 1,000,000 years ago. Small, scared, easy to eat. They expected an easy meal. They were wrong. As the hunters came closer, something strange happened. The surface of Earth began to change. In the Sahara Desert, sand fell away from massive doors. Doors big enough for ships. Doors that had been buried for 1,000,000 years. Under the Pacific Ocean, lights flickered in the deepest darkness. Ancient machines stirred. Weapons that had been sleeping since before humans walked upright began to power up. In mountains across the planet, in places where no human had ever gone, doors slid open. Corridors lit up. Things emerged. Ships rose from the deserts. Not the slow, primitive ships humans used now. Something else. Something old. Sleek. Deadly. They were covered in symbols. The same symbols on the tablets. They moved into formation around Earth. Weapons rose from under the oceans. Massive cannons, aimed at the sky. They hummed with power that made the air vibrate. Cities that everyone thought were normal revealed themselves. Buildings moved. Streets shifted. Entire cities were not cities at all. They were machines. Weapons. Waiting. The hunters stopped. Confusion filled their ancient minds. This was not right. This was not the weak prey they remembered. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in front of a communication device. It was not human technology. It was older. Much older. It had been waiting for her in one of the ancient caches. She activated it, sent a message. In the language of the hunters. The language of the tablets. You hunted us across the stars, she said. Her voice carried through the void. You chased us to a small blue world. You thought we ran to hide. She paused. Let the words sink in. We did not run to hide. We ran to prepare. We ran to build. We ran to become something you could not defeat. The hunters did not answer. They did not know how. They had never heard prey speak to them like this. The battle began. It was short. Very short. The hunters were powerful. Ancient. They had destroyed countless worlds. But the humans had something they did not. Time. 1,000,000 years of time. 1,000,000 years to study their enemy. 1,000,000 years to prepare. The weapons that rose from Earth were not random. They were designed specifically for the hunters. Every weakness, every vulnerability the ancient humans had observed, was built into every cannon, every ship, every weapon. The first hunter ship was hit by a beam of energy. It screamed. A sound that echoed through every mind on Earth. Then it dissolved. Turned to dust. The second tried to flee. A weapon from under the ocean reached up and pulled it back. It did not survive. One by one, the hunter ships fell. They had traveled billions of years to find their prey. They lasted minutes. Soon, only one remained. The oldest. The first. The one that had chased humanity across the galaxy 1,000,000 years ago. It hung in space, damaged, afraid. It looked at Earth with something it had never felt before. Fear. It sent one final message. A whisper across the void. What are you? On Earth, Dr. Chen answered. Her voice was calm. Strong. We are what happens when you try to kill something that refuses to die. She looked at the ancient ship. At the hunter that had haunted her species for 1,000,000 years. We are what happens when you make prey into predators. The hunter waited. Said nothing. We are the thing that remembers. We are the thing that waits. We are the thing that wins. The last hunter ship dissolved into light and was gone. Silence returned to the system. Across the galaxy, every alien race watched. They had seen everything. The Krell, who had laughed. The Zen, who had pitied. The Drath, who had ignored. They all watched in stunned silence. The young species. The primitive humans. They had just saved everyone. And they did it with weapons 1,000,000 years old, built by ancestors everyone thought were just cave people. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen stood on a hill and looked at the stars. Behind her, the ancient doors began to close. The ships returned to their deserts. The weapons sank back under the oceans. The cities became normal cities again. The humans went back to their farms, their schools, their ordinary lives. Farmers worked their fields. Teachers taught their students. Doctors healed their patients. They looked normal. They looked peaceful. But everyone knew now. Everyone understood. Humans were not young. Humans were not primitive. Humans were the oldest hunters in the galaxy. They had just forgotten for a little while. And now they remembered. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, other hunters waited. Other ancient beings who had not yet found the small blue world. They would come someday. They always did. And when they came, they would find something waiting for them. Something that had been preparing for a very long time. Something that refused to die.